Welcome to How Was I Supposed to Know That? I'm your host, Bernard Williams, and I'm also a business attorney with a law firm called Company Counsel. In my role as a small business attorney, I work with a lot of clients who own companies that run into trouble that, quite frankly, could have been avoided if only they had gotten the right legal counsel or the right business advice at the right time. So one of the things that I want to do with this podcast is provide an opportunity to talk about some of those things that can sometimes cause business owners to stumble. And I think if we identify those things and make people aware of them, then it's more likely that they will be able to put things in place to protect themselves, to avoid that misstep, and to go on to achieve the kind of success that they were destined to achieve. Now, one of the things that's come up very recently, that's really come into the small business consciousness very recently, is something called the Corporate Transparency Act. So I wanted to spend a few minutes today talking about the Corporate Transparency Act, what it entails, and making sure that small company owners are aware of their compliance requirements, because this is something that's brand new. You probably haven't heard about it, and the penalties for noncompliance can be pretty steep. So the Corporate Transparency Act was actually enacted by Congress a few years ago, but when Congress created the act, they decided to wait until actually implementing the act. So the act didn't actually take fruition until January 1st of 2024. So at this point, here we are in 2024. The Corporate Transparency Act is in place, and the requirements are now live. So under the Corporate Transparency Act, anyone who owns a company, whether that's an LLC or a corporation or a partnership or any other type of formal legal entity, is required to file a beneficial ownership information form with the Office of Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. So let me unpack that a little bit, because I know that that sounded a little bit dense, right? So to unpack that, the beneficial ownership information form is a form that's filled out online. You do it at the website of the Office of Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, or FinCEN for short. FinCEN is one of the subdivisions of the U.S. Department of Treasury. Most people are familiar with the IRS. The Internal Revenue Service, that's the other division that is of the U.S. Department of Treasury. So this is not a requirement of the IRS. This is a requirement of its sister department, FinCEN, or the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. So what you're going to be submitting online to that network is the beneficial ownership information form for your company. A beneficial owner is anyone who owns at least 20% of your company, or who owns less than 20% of your company, but who has some sort of managerial role in the operations of the company. So, for example, someone might be a 5% stakeholder, a 5% equity holder of a company, but they are also the managing partner. So they would have the ability to manage and direct the affairs of that entity. In that case, that 5% managing partner would be considered a beneficial owner. So again, anybody with a managerial role in the company, or with 20% or more of an ownership interest, is considered a beneficial owner, and their information has to be provided on this beneficial ownership information form that gets submitted to the government. Now, it gets a little bit more complicated than that, because it's not just a matter of providing names. You also have to provide other identifying information. So, for example, if it's an individual, then you've got to provide information regarding that person's social security number and some kind of identifying information. Whether it be some sort of a government ID is probably the best way of saying that. So, a driver's license or a passport or something to confirm the identity of that owner. So, this is all still brand new, and the Department of Treasury is still working out a lot of the kinks. And in fact, the FinCEN website is not even entirely up and running yet. But all those things should be rolled out pretty quickly, since the compliance requirements are already underway. So there's still a little bit more to be learned about what it's going to look like to actually submit the form to the government. But what I do know is that Congress has already identified certain consequences and penalties for people that either don't complete the form or who do it and do it wrong. So failure to file the form is a $500 a day penalty for every day that it's not filed, up to a maximum of $10,000 in total fines. So let me say that again. If you are a single day late in filing this form, you'll be fined $500. And then you'll keep getting fined $500 every day until you actually complete it and file it and do it correctly. And it can add up to $10,000 in total of fines for either not filing on time or filing incorrectly. Additionally, if it's found that you have hit something or that you have done something to obfuscate the process or to hide something throughout the process, if you've said something fraudulent or if you've lied throughout the process, then jail time is also on the table, and people that either lie on the form or omit important information on the form are subject to up to 2 years of jail time, in addition to the $10,000 in potential monetary fines. So as you can see, it's a pretty big deal. It's pretty onerous, and non-compliance can be pretty costly for small companies. So I want to make sure everybody is aware of the deadlines. If you are the owner of a company that is already in existence, you have a deadline of December 31st, 2024 to get your form in. So now I want to give you a word of caution here. You've got a little bit of time. You've got a full year to submit this form. But again, if you submit it late or if you submit it wrong, then you're subject to fines. So if you're like a lot of the small company owners that I know, there's a really large risk that you could wait until the last minute and then either forget or not have everything you need to complete the filing, or maybe make a quick mistake on the form. Something's going to happen to some of the people who are listening to this podcast, and they're going to wind up being hit with a fine. If you're listening to this, if you can hear my voice, I don't want this to be you. So I would encourage you, do not wait until the end of the year. As soon as you can, as soon as the website is available at FinCEN, complete the beneficial ownership information form, get it out of the way, and don't put yourself at risk for having to pay these fines or worse. So again, if you are the owner of a company that's already in existence prior to 2024, then you have until the end of the year to do it, but please don't wait that long. Now, if you are listening to this podcast and you have formed a company in 2024, or you're thinking about forming a new company this year, then you're going to have 90 days from the date of formation within which to file your beneficial ownership information form. So for you, it's even more important that you keep a close eye on this and not let time slip by, because whatever you first form that entity, whenever you get that stamped document from your state indicating that your LLC is official or your corporation is official, 90 days from that point is your deadline to file your beneficial ownership information form if you're new this year. So I know that all this is new. Even though Congress enacted this 2 years ago, people have not been focusing on it. People have not been talking about it. So this may be the first time that you're hearing about the Corporate Transparency Act. This is not within the realm of accountants. So I would not encourage you to talk to your CPA or your accountant about this. However, if you have an attorney, I would encourage you to talk to them. Any business attorney should be able to help you with this compliance requirement. If you have any questions, again, it's the U.S. Department of Treasury that has the frequently asked questions and that would have all the the source information that you would need to figure this out. Or you can always reach out to me. Again, my name is Bernard Williams, and if you could reach me by email at bwilliams@companycounsel.law, or by phone at 484-325-5660. And finally, you can find us on the internet at www.companycounsel.law. Again, keep in mind your compliance obligations for the Corporate Transparency Act, and if I can help you in any way, please reach out and let me know. Thanks so much.